So hello and welcome to Experience Recovery Conversations. As you all know, we're talking to people at the moment who are in there doing these things, working with our communities within their facilities and outside of their facilities. And today I'm joined by Gemma. So Gemma, just give us a quick intro. Tell us who you are, what you do and where you do it, please.
So my name's Gemma Coombs. I live in Ellesmere Port, work in the borough of West Cheshire. We are a falls delivery service, so we deliver exercise classes based at falls, aimed at falls prevention for the over 65s all over the borough, really. So lockdown has changed the way we work, but normally the majority of my week would be face-to-face with a group of up to 12 wobbly people. Can I say that?
Not drunk, but just wobbly.
Yeah, varying degrees of wobbliness. But yeah, and we see them twice a week as well. Right. So, you know, we end up becoming really good friends as we go through it, and the classes last for 25 weeks. So it's actually 50 contacts that we have with them if they turn up to all of them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so this has changed everything, hasn't it, right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just before we get into the detail of what lockdown's happened, I've had the pleasure of quest assessing at Brio, and you work at Brio Leisure, don't you? There's a really strong health commissioning arm, isn't there, of Brio? You've got lots of these types of things going on.
So and it's growing, and it's a priority for Brio as well, I think. So yeah, and that's where I came from. So my background is actually NHS. I'm a physio by trade, although I'm employed as an instructor here. But they're trying to really work with all the other services that are around, trying to get as many people interacting with them. So it's not just me, we're just one arm. So we're falls prevention, there's weight management, there's smoking cessation, there's all sorts of things going on, and they're trying to include more and more, and they go to a lot of the commissioning meetings and things that are going on. So like, for example, the COPD's just come over to the smoking cessation team. That might come into the exercise side of things soon as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's huge in Brio. They really want to push it, quite right.
Absolutely, I was really impressed, and they were, when I spoke to the guys and girls at Brio, it was almost about that hard to reach population, but they don't use the terms hard to reach because that is what you're doing. You're working in those communities that would not normally do activity, not normally do exercise, but you're finding ways of interacting with them.
It's really interesting seeing it from, because I used to refer into services like this, but very few and far between, really. You know, NHS, you used to try and keep everybody, you know, if we're going to do a falls programme, we do it within the NHS, but you just can't access that many people. Whereas, so they call it a third sector, don't they, where we're working now out in the third sector. I've heard it said before, well, actually, maybe this should be the first sector, because often more people are in contact with the leisure side of things than they are and once you get to the health, you know, once you get to the NHS, things are often quite far gone. So it kind of sits quite nicely, really, falls in leisure. I find it does.
Absolutely, you know, and one thing I've managed to do in lockdown is get back to a little bit of dumbbell lifting in the garage. I'd suddenly realised that I hadn't really lifted weights for probably 20 years, and the whole piece around bone brittleness, around being able to squat and things like that, so important to my future going forward and spending time with my 14-year-old as she grows up. So yeah, that fall prevention stuff is really important. So it must have been quite tough then. So a lot of these people would have been shielding. So I guess that ability to even socially distance do classes and things was not on the card. So what have you been doing to maintain engagement?
So initially in March, when things just, well, the bomb was dropped, really, wasn't it? We didn't have much warning at all. So initially we just made sure that people had their homework. So this is like a booklet kind of thing that we give out, but also, and that was fine, and we could ask them to do it, but how many people would actually comply with that? You don't know, do you? So we did also phone them up, and that took a lot of my time, especially at the beginning, because everybody was worried. Everyone's still worried, but everybody was worried there. But you know, these people on a day-to-day basis, I see them twice a week. So, you know, Doris from Winsford, if I spoke to him, it wouldn't just be hi, just to let you know, is everything all right? It would be a half-an-hour conversation. So if you think I had so many people to call, and it was actually quite nice because it was nice for me. It felt really normal for me. And we were talking about how they were feeling, but we were also talking about what was going on, you know, what they'd done that day, and encouraging them to do their exercises in that way. So we had to change it where we could still, and to make them feel that we cared still as well, that we were interested, that all of a sudden it didn't just stop. What we did notice when we were able to put the classes back on in October, when people came back, there was a difference in that. We used what we call a timed up and go, which is an outcome measure, just a 3-meter walk test, which is sort of known as a falls predictor. And so many of them had significantly increased their time. So they were taking a lot longer to walk. They were struggling to get out of chairs because they were just not going out and about. They just weren't doing as much. One lady didn't come back until the very end of October because she was so nervous about coming, you know, because there's a psychological side. So once we were back up and running, we had to change some locations. We had one place which could only hold 5 people in a room, so we had to half the class and put double the classes on. We did start an actual new class with new people. That was great. Again, 5 weeks later, that's it, it's all shut down. Just gives me more people to ring. But yeah, so that's what we've been doing. The other side of it is, like everybody's been trying to do, is how to connect with them. So we have done. We've got a social media Twitter page and a Facebook page, but how many of them are, you know, online is not as many as you'd think. So we've put stuff on the website, and we have created some exercise videos as well for us to do. There's me and another lady called Dora who have put some together. So that they just 15-minute blocks of exercise videos that they could follow, that they've done in the class, giving them a seated option and giving them a standing option. We did one in front of one in my kitchen. We've done, and I did, yeah. So it's just a case of trying to hit all the bases so that they feel like that they haven't withdrawn from our service, that they're still part of it. They're just on hold, really.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
hard.
You said 2 things in there that I found really interesting. The first one is about just picking up the phone, because I guess that's also a mental health thing. You know, I often say to people when I'm introducing new recreation assistants and lifeguards, you know, this might be the only positive interaction somebody has in their day. So for you to be calling people and things like that, I think that must have been really powerful. But the other thing, just go over again the measure. You said you had like a measure of a distance traveled or the ease of setting up and things. Just give me a bit more on that, please, because that's really interesting.
Yeah, so they're timed up and go. It's a standardised, it's quite well known. It's used throughout falls. It's as a falls risk indicator. So we do this at the beginning of our 25-week programme, in the middle and at the end. And it's an outcome measure that the commissioners use to see if we've been effective as well. So it's quite handy, really. But because everybody had not been there for 5 months, we needed to do it again, isn't it? We couldn't really utilise the first outcome measure if they'd only been coming for 8 or 10 weeks. We use that one because everybody changed. So we did do everybody's timed up and goes again. So we asked somebody to sit down on a chair. We give them the instructions, and we time them from when they attempt to stand from the chair, walk 3 meters, turn around, come back, and when they land back on the chair is when we stop. And there's a range, so you know, sort of low, medium, and high risk as to where you fall into. Our category, we're supposed to cover low and medium falls risk, and we do. Every now and again somebody comes through that's higher falls risk that you might have to signpost to another service, or you have to adapt things, you know, in order to, or ask a partner to come along and help them. But yeah, it is interesting, but you have to do it. It's a commissioning measure, but it's all used all over the world, really.
No, it's really interesting, because one of the challenges that you often hear is that doctors are concerned about prescribing activity to their patients, to potentially our customers. And part of it is because I think the professionalism is always going to be a challenge. But the second one is about measuring the impact. And you just described to me an impact. You know, I've been working in this sector for years. I've never heard of that. So it's bad on me because I've never asked the question. But that's really useful, because that demonstrates straight away that actually you're taking people on a journey from whatever that timing is in their first test to the end of your program. I just find that fascinating, that something so simple can be used in order to demonstrate the impact you've had.
I think it's successful because it is simple,
Yeah.
and you can do it anywhere as long as you've got a space, you've got a chair and 3 meters. And the clients themselves, they are competitive. They want to know if there's a difference. I never tell them what their first score is, because you know, you could have one person sitting next to someone who's just done it twice as fast as somebody else. You know, so you're always competing against yourself.
Absolutely.
There's other measures as well that you can use, but that is the one that they generally, you know, sort of want to know about commissioning wise.
Really interesting. And what I love about it is it's the improvement time, not the fastest time. I do this. I have a hockey club with a lot of young players in, and we use a little activity to get them to move effectively. And all we do is, it's not about your time against somebody else, it's about your time against the previous time. And that is so important to help people move through. But you know, that's really, I'm fascinated, and I'm going to Google it and have another look, because that's brilliant. So what have you learned in this period of lockdown that you think, actually, I'm going to take that forward? That's something that I'm going to maximize the impact of once we're into a post-pandemic world, which I know will be different, but hopefully we'll be able to get together, socialize, and have a few more people in your groups effectively.
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I think what I didn't realize is how much, I think you're just all on a treadmill. So 16 hours, 14 of them are class delivery. Some of that is travel and what have you, but what's left, the 2 hours admin I get, how much is the actual service, you know, improvement type stuff? Not a lot, not by the time you've, you know, done all your registers and, you know, chase people up for not coming, not a lot really. And this is, although furloughed and part furloughed, and, you know, we've been a bit yo-yo of and then we were back in work for all that time. It's made me realize that in order to make our service bigger, make it better, make it more rounded, that it doesn't take that much, and that just a few hours here and there. So one of the things we're doing at the minute and really focusing on, and this is one thing I really want to do when we get back into work, because our hands are tied a bit now, is how we help the care sector. So the care homes. And I spoke to them when I was back working, and what we want to do is to be able to provide a service to them, which means that they can deliver their own falls classes with a champion or somebody, you know, us on the video, them helping out every day, 15 minutes a day, you know, or more if they want, with education as well. So putting this package together, which would seem like there's only 3 of us in our little falls team, it would take us months to do it. But actually, it doesn't. If you just give yourself a day to focus on doing the videos, or it's actually much quicker. And I think everybody's had to think outside the box. And I know that my managers especially are really keen for any ideas. So anything that I've done or said, oh, let's try this, they've jumped on it straight away and say, great. And then they want to take it further. So we did some like education stuff for the rest of the team, because my background in physio, I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. I did a lot of pulmonary rehab stuff. So we just used the opportunity of our weekly wellbeing meetings, which we have, to do some education stuff for the rest of the team, just half an hour on COPD and what it is. And if someone came into the gym, what would you expect? Why is someone on oxygen and somebody else isn't? All these kind of questions that in the leisure side of things, you don't get. And from a health service point of view, that you don't always trust that the leisure provider knows enough about. So I think there's a big divide there. So I think when going back and how we work when we go back, I think there needs to be more of a link maybe, or more education based. Like, there's no reason why you have to turn up to a course for a whole day. Why can't you just do a video and an educate that everybody has to watch, or send it out on the email to do it? It doesn't have to be a certificate at the end of it if you've got people in your service who can provide that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is so exciting. You know, I haven't delivered any online learning, but I've delivered a shed load of online conversation, answering online. You know, and that ability to share stuff widely. You know, some of the videos we've done have been seen by over 1,000 people. Well, that would have taken me days to have talked to 1,000 people about this. So I really like that idea of being able to record, share wider, share faster, but also upskilling the industry as well, because you're absolutely right. In a post-COVID, post-pandemic world, there's going to be different challenges on us as those guys and girls that work as the fitness team, for example. They're going to have to know far more around the empathy, the soft skills, but also about what it means if I've had COVID or if I've been deconditioned for the last 9 months. It's absolutely fascinating, Gemma. Thank you.
It's fine. It's interesting, isn't it, how now going forward in the next 10 years, if you'd have said a year ago, we're going to give you some classes online, or you can access these videos, or we're going to do a falls prevention program in your care home, but you're going to deliver it, people will be less likely to go, because it's never been done before. But this has almost just turned everybody 90 degrees, haven't they? And it's all, the technology's always been there, but we've just never really harnessed it. I don't think the answer is completely online. No. I think there has to be a personal context, doesn't there? You have to have the conversations. They have to be invested in it. Yeah. But yeah, it's changed the way we work.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think we're going to finish there, Gemma, because that is brilliant. I'm going to tag you in. I'm going to tag the organisation into all the social media we put out. So if anybody's interested in finding out, they'll be able to come direct to you. But Gemma, that has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dave.